Story recapped here. Today I'm gonna explain a horror film called Return of the Living Dead 3. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. At a military base, Colonel John is leading the research for the new bioweapon technology. He gets introduced to Lieutenant Colonel Sinclair so they can work together, but with John still overseeing the operation. Before they could go further into the base, John has to borrow another officer's card key because he misplaces his own at home. However, John didn't actually misplace his card key because, unknowingly to him, it was stolen by his son Kurt. In order to impress his girlfriend Julie, they plan to sneak inside the military base to see what his father is experimenting on. When they get to the base, the guard just lets Kurt in, knowing he's the colonel's son. They sneak inside the building, hurrying on top of the testing room so they can watch over the vents. As the experiment commences, they witness the military expose a corpse to a gas called 2,4,5-trioxin. Due to the exposure, the corpse reanimates, but it's extremely aggressive and hostile, so John orders to shoot with a pyretic infusion to immobilize the creature, which works. On the other hand, Julie's pin falls off from her clothing, slightly alerting the guard that's making rounds. Because of this, the couple sneaks off to leave. As everyone acknowledges John's success, they don't notice that the zombie's temporary paralysis wore off faster than intended and bites off a scientist's fingers. The zombie rises and stabs the scientist with a scalpel. Although they try to subdue it, they're easily overpowered. Since regular guns don't work, they reload the paralyzing projectile, which is effective, though not before it has already killed a scientist. As if things couldn't get worse in a failing experiment, the dead scientist turns into a zombie to attack the remaining men inside the room. Instead of helping, John orders to contain the danger, locking the scientists inside. When they get back home, Kurt and Julie make love instantly. However, Kurt feels off about what they've seen, compared to Julie, who's getting off from thinking about the corpse. Their time is cut short when John arrives to deliver some bad news to Kurt. It turns out John has been reassigned to a different project, presumably because of the earlier blunder, so they'll be required to move cities. Although Kurt is used to this lifestyle, he rejects the idea, telling John that he's not going with him. This sparks a heated argument between the two, resulting in Kurt moving out to leave with Julie. As they ride their motorcycle to freedom, Julie teases Kurt and playfully touches his groin. Because of an oncoming truck and the unnecessary distraction, Kurt loses control of the motorcycle. As he swerves the vehicle, Julie gets thrown off and hits her head on a telephone pole. Meanwhile, Kurt simply slides off with the motorcycle. Worried, he immediately runs to Julie's position and finds her dead. Grieving for his love, Kurt remembers that he still has John's card key and the experiment they witnessed. He doesn't hesitate to drive back to the site to bring Julie back to life. Arriving at the testing chamber for the trioxin, Kurt equips a hazmat suit and pries open the gas tank immediately. When Julie's body gets exposed to the gaseous chemical, she starts coming back to life. Though she gains consciousness, she has forgotten about the previous accident. On the other hand, Kurt couldn't close the tank properly, making it spill down. Seeing this, they try to escape right away, but a zombie starts coming after them. Although they lock the zombie in, it's able to open the door and catch Julie. Kurt pulls her away from the zombie, but her scream alerts a patrolling officer. Despite making it to the door, the officer stops them at gunpoint, but the zombie catches up to them and starts eating the officer. This gives Kurt their chance to escape, but they've already been seen. Hence, John is shown the security tapes of Kurt and Julie breaking in. One of the scientists notes that the young couple's relationship is enough for Julie not to eat Kurt, but it's only a matter of time until she does. While they drive away, Julie feels weird in her body and states that she's extremely hungry. This forces Kurt to stop by a nearby convenience store where she desperately eats whatever she could get her hands on. However, she doesn't find anything that suits her taste. Nonetheless, her odd behavior catches the eye of some hooligans. The hoodlums, Santos and Alicia, tease Kurt that he doesn't feed his girlfriend, but he tries to ignore them. Felipe tries to taunt him further, but Kurt, already freaking out, accidentally bumps into Santos when he tries to wave them off. This sparks a conflict between the two, alerting the shopkeeper. Before the shopkeeper confronts them, he hides a gun behind him. As he tries to approach the situation calmly, the shopkeeper tells them to take the fight outside. Although Santos seems cooperative, Mogo, one of his comrades, takes the conflict as an opportunity to steal from the cash register. Things turn for the worse when the shopkeeper pulls out his gun before Kurt and Julie can leave. Although he initially intimidates the gang, the tides turn against him as Felipe grabs him from behind. With the backup of his friend, Santos was able to take the gun away from the shopkeeper and shoot him. The gunshots activate the store's alarm, so the gang tries to book it before they can get caught. However, Julie grabs Mogo's arms and bites him as he's about to exit. Outside, Santos shoots Kurt's motorcycle and renders it useless. Seeing the state of his vehicle, Kurt just hijacks a nearby van. It turns out it's the shopkeepers, who catches up to them to plead for help. He hands Kurt the keys to the van, so they start speeding down the street. However, the police are on their tail and start shooting at them. The shopkeeper tries to get himself off the situation, but the police still shoot him when he opens the back of the van. Meanwhile, Julie still feels hungry and even starts stabbing herself with a utility knife to distract herself. Upon seeing the dead shopkeeper, she immediately goes to the back of the van and starts eating him. On the other hand, Kurt turns to an alleyway to lose the cops, but this proves ineffective as the police still manage to find their position. They zero in on the van, but Kurt is too preoccupied, trying to stop Julie from eating the shopkeeper. Much to the policeman's surprise, the zombie shopkeeper jumps out and kills one of them with a crowbar. Although the other policeman tries to shoot, regular guns are ineffective against the undead. Soon enough, the military arrives with John's paralyzing projectiles. The colonel tries to look for his son, not knowing they escaped through the sewers. So, he orders his men to search for Kurt but tells them not to hurt him. While they try to recuperate for a bit, Julie finds a metal spring and starts stabbing herself again, saying that the pain helps with her hunger. Kurt tries to stop her from hurting herself, but she blames him for bringing her back to life. Not liking the monstrosity she's starting to become, Julie runs away to jump off a bridge. On the other hand, Mogo starts feeling odd because of Julie's bite. To get revenge for hurting one of his comrades, Santos tries to track down Kurt and Julie, but Kurt is relentless, shouting for Julie's name as he looks for her along the river after she jumps. He comes across Riverman, telling Kurt that Julie is probably dead. When he finds Julie, Riverman tells him to let her go, but Kurt knows it's impossible for her to die. When Julie comes back alive, Riverman is more than shocked. Soon enough, the hooligans catch up to them at the bridge, so Riverman urges them to hide at his place. Meanwhile, John is getting more distressed because of the mess. Not only was his experiment a failure, but he's also missing his son. As if adding more fuel to the fire, Lieutenant Colonel Sinclair takes over John's operations and relieves him from his duties. But John doesn't listen because he wants to ensure that Kurt will be found safe and sound. So he takes his own projectile gun to look for his son. On the other hand, Kurt arrives at Riverman's place within the sewers. They notice that Julie's body is starting to get colder. Hence, Kurt tries to warm her up with a blanket. After Kurt and Riverman talk a bit about themselves, the helpful man offers to keep watch while Kurt looks after Julie. Before the man goes outside, Kurt expresses his gratitude towards him, yet not knowing how to pay him back. So Riverman hands him a Mardi Gras coin, telling him to just help another person in need and give them the coin. As Kurt sits next to Julie, he finds her freaking out about everything. Although he tries to reassure her that they'll make it, Julie is already over the deep end. She accidentally knocks over a glass bottle that impales her on the foot, but instead of screaming in pain, she takes out the shard and stabs her palm with it. Kurt doesn't see the action, so she tries to act normal and brings Kurt to bed. When Kurt falls asleep, Julie takes her chance to hurt herself further than before, stabbing herself with nails, glass shards, and multiple other spikes. On the other hand, Riverman, who was supposed to be on the lookout, has fallen asleep. He's awoken by Santos, who starts drowning him for Julie's location. Despite the torture, Riverman doesn't disclose where Kurt and Julie are. Hearing Riverman scream outside, Kurt offers some backup by attacking Felipe with a pipe when he stumbles upon the door. Amidst the commotion, Mogo's condition starts to get worse. With that, Santos holds Kurt at gunpoint so he can lead them to Julie. But Santos doesn't need to threaten Kurt any further as Julie emerges from Riverman's abode, already looking extremely mutilated with the spikes, glass, and nails protruding from her body. Santos slowly approaches her with a knife, but instead of attacking her, he feels attraction towards Julie. Instead of fighting, they go back inside Riverman's place as Santos plans to have his way around Julie. While their leader is away, Felipe is tasked to hold Kurt at gunpoint. but when Riverman tries to sneak out, Felipe shoots his leg. They hear Santos screaming bloody murder, and when Julie exits, she's holding Santos' head, his spine protruding out of his body. Felipe attempts to shoot Julie, but she doesn't hesitate to eat the group of hooligans. Even when Kurt tries to stop her, she's having trouble controlling herself, but just enough not to eat her own boyfriend. On the other hand, Mogo and Santos start reanimating as zombies. Riverman goes back to the safety of his home with Julie and Kurt. As he starts barricading themselves in, Kurt helps him with nailing planks on the door, but the zombies still manage to break through. Kurt and Riverman struggle to keep them at bay. Therefore, Riverman offers to sacrifice himself, but Kurt doesn't let him. Instead, he instructs Riverman to take Julie and run away while he stays behind. When the zombies get past the remaining barricade, Kurt catches up to the two, only to see that Julie couldn't resist eating Riverman. Already losing more control over sentience, Julie tries to attack Kurt, so he hits her with a pipe. Kurt starts regretting what he's done, but it's already too late, even when Julie pleads for her life to be ended. Just when the zombies catch up to Kurt, almost biting him, the military arrives. John immediately shoots the zombies with the paretic infusion and tells Kurt to get away from Julie. This time, he follows his father's orders and watches as John shoots Julie with a projectile. They get back to the base, where John and Kurt finally have a heart-to-heart talk about their relationship. Even so, Kurt is still worried about Julie. John tells him that she's part of Sinclair's project now, which is something that he doesn't have jurisdiction over anymore. When they leave John's office, the Colonel starts talking to Sinclair, giving John the opportunity to walk away and find Julie. Going around the research areas, he sees the evil experimentation on humans being turned into bioweapons until he comes upon Julie. One of the scientists tells him that Julie will be put in an exoskeleton, like the prototype that Sinclair is currently fixing up to a zombie Riverman. Seeing how much pain the exoskeleton seems to put in the subject, Kurt doesn't hesitate to free Julie from her cell, punching the scientist so he won't be able to stop him. Because of the distraction, Riverman manages to fight against the officers and Sinclair. As the scientists try to subdue Riverman, Kurt seizes the opportunity to run away with Julie. While they keep shooting Riverman, the scientist accidentally shoots the power box, eliminating their electricity. Because of the darkness, the scientist doesn't see Riverman coming for him until it's too late. Riverman starts slamming him on the wall, not realizing it's hitting the button that opens all the zombie cells. The commotion becomes worse as more zombies escape from their containment. Kurt is desperate to escape with Julie, but they come across a metal gate that prevents them from going further. As Riverman corners them, Kurt pulls out the Mardi Gras coin that he gave him earlier and pleads for help. Because of this, Riverman gains momentary clarity and recognizes Kurt. He helps them through the barriers by pulling the gate open. When they're able to pass through, Sinclair finishes off Riverman with a gun, but she immediately gets eaten by a zombie that appears behind her. Meanwhile, there are only a few seconds till the military base's complete lockdown. As the two maneuver their way through the halls, trying to avoid zombies, they don't see one incoming from behind. Out of instinct, Kurt holds out his arm to protect Julie from the zombie, even though she's a zombie herself. John catches up to Kurt, refusing to leave the base without his son. However, Kurt knows that it's already too late for him because he's already bitten. Knowing what to do, Kurt kisses Julie one last time before they burn themselves in the incinerator to meet their demise.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.